The party first needs a candidate, and this morning, they may have found one. In a moment, we'll be joined by that candidate. But first, here is the premiere of her Senate campaign's launch to unseat Majority Leader Mitch McConnell in 2020.
I was 13 years old, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I sat at this table, and I wrote a letter to my senator, telling him I wanted to fly fighter jets in combat, to fight for my country, and that women should be able to do that. He never wrote back. I'm Amy McGrath, and I've often wondered, how many other people did Mitch McConnell never take the time to write back, or even think about? A second-generation steelworker who found out his mill is shutting down, leaving no jobs behind. A woman suffering from diabetes who fears losing her health care and coverage for her pre-existing condition. A coal miner forced to retire by black lung disease who's looking for someone to offer more than words. A student who can only afford college as long as she can get her federal loans and has no idea how she'll pay off the debt. Everything that's wrong in Washington had to start someplace. How did it come to this? That even within our own families, we can't talk to each other about the leaders of our country anymore without anger and blame. Well, it started with this man who was elected a lifetime ago and who has, bit by bit, year by year, turned Washington into something we all despise, where dysfunction and chaos are political weapons, where budgets and healthcare and the Supreme Court are held hostage, a place where ideals go to die. I'm running for Senate because it shouldn't be like this. I learned as a daughter, a mom, a Marine, and a fighter pilot that the mission can never be forgotten, that protecting our democracy requires courage, that our freedoms are never assured, and the best way to lift someone up is a job. The challenge of today is inside each of us. How do we reconcile our belief in basic human decency with our anger at those who block progress at all costs? There is a path to resetting our country's moral compass, where each of us is heard, and we can become, once again, the moral and economic leader of a world in disarray. But to do that, we have to win this.
And joining us now, newly announced Democratic Kentucky Senate candidate, retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath. Great to have you on the show. That was an incredible rollout, but how do you get the people of Kentucky to hear that message?
Well, it's good to be here. And I think this is a message that Kentuckians are ready for. You know, I never set out to be some politician. All I wanted to do with my life was fly fighter jets, serve my country, be a United States Marine, and I did that. And along the way, I met my husband, and we have 3 amazing children right now. But like a lot of Americans and a lot of Kentuckians, we look at each other and we say, you know, we're worried about our country. We're worried about Kentucky. We're worried about the future. And many Kentuckians are worried along with us. And so, you know, for somebody like me who's always stepped up to the plate, who's always been somebody that wanted to serve my country, I felt like this was the right time to stand up. And I think many Kentuckians would be ready for that.
Amy, it's Willie Geist. Congratulations on getting into the race. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here this morning. There have been many people over the years who come at Mitch McConnell, who believe he or she were the candidate that we're going to finally take him out politically, and he has persevered. He's been a resilient political candidate and a politician in Washington through the years. Why do you believe this time is different?
Well, and you're absolutely right to say he's very formidable, and he's been around 34 years. I think this is different. It's a different race because, Kentucky voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And you can say Kentucky is a very red state, but it's a very pro-Trump state. And if you think about why Kentuckians voted for Trump, they wanted to drain the swamp, and Trump said that he was going to do that. Trump promised to bring back jobs. He promised to lower drug prices for so many Kentuckians, and that is very important. And you know what? Who stops them along the way? Who stops the president from doing these things? Well, Mitch McConnell. And I think that that's really important, and that's going to be, my message, that the things that Kentuckians voted for Trump for are not being done. He's not able to get it done because of Senator McConnell.
Hi, Amy. It's Steve Ratner. As you well know, on the national stage, the presidential hopefuls come in a variety of colors and flavors, if you will, on issues. And I'd just like to ask you how you're going to position yourself on some of these issues, like Medicare for all, like the Green New Deal, like free college tuition. How do you run on those issues in the state of Kentucky?
Well, I think that, and I watch the Democratic debates with my husband and my family, and, a lot of times, my husband is a registered Republican, and I'm a Democrat, but I was an independent for many years. And there were times when, my husband and I looked at each other during the debates, and we were concerned that many of the candidates were pulling a little too far left from where we are, because we're both moderates. We're like most Americans. We get along, and we just want reasonable solutions for some of these things. So I differ from some of the Democratic candidates because, I'm not for taking away private health insurance, as an example. I don't think we should upend our entire system in a Medicare for all, because there's a lot of people that like their insurance, but we should be fixing the system, as an example. I'm not for things like subsidizing health insurance for illegal immigrants. I think many Kentuckians feel that we have a problem with getting health insurance for many Americans, so we need to fix that first.
This is Eddie Glaude from Princeton University, Ms. Amy. Let me ask you this question. You can talk about getting rid of Mitch McConnell. You could talk about your moderate agenda. But what are you doing, or how are you planning to do the blocking and tackling, the ground game? What's your approach to turning out a range of voters in order to upset Mitch McConnell in this election?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, a lot of people are very pro-Trump, and the key is to get out and talk to everybody, to remind them, hey, we've had this senator here for 34 years, and in Kentucky, there's a lot of people that just aren't feeling the benefits of this economy. He's allowed an entire industry of tobacco and coal to decline for decades and not had a plan, and we've left entire regions of our state to economic peril. We have one of the lowest wage rates in the country. We have an opioid crisis that is 2 times the rate in terms of deaths around the country. We have the highest cancer rates in the country, and meanwhile, all of this time, we have a senator that is not only not prioritizing these things, because he's prioritizing the interests of special interests, but he's actively working against Kentuckians when he's trying to take away health care and that sort of thing over and over and over again. So I think that's the key, and just reminding people, hey, Senator McConnell's been in office. He has been somebody who his party had the power, the House, the presidency, and the Senate for 2 years, and the only major piece of legislation that he was able to pass, because that was his priority, was this tax windfall for corporations and wealthiest Americans just like him.
So, Amy, basically, you're going to go across your state for the next several months talking about a big con that's been enforced upon the people of Kentucky and other places. Now, we all sat here and watched your rollout commercial, which is incredibly powerful. And one of the ways you can get people to vote, obviously, is based on emotion before you even get to the con that they're living under. So let's cut to the chase. What's your website? Because people who saw that commercial are going to want to donate to you. What's your website?
Yeah. My website is amymcgrath.com. And you're absolutely right to say it is about emotion. I'm not doing this because, like I said, I wanted to be some politician. I'm doing this because I care about our country, and I care about Kentucky. And I feel like we need people of courage to step up. And we're going to need the entire nation in this fight for Kentucky.
All right, thank you so much. Retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, we greatly appreciate it, and certainly when Mitch McConnell comes on our show, we will also mention his website. But just for the record, her website again, amymcgrath.com.
Good luck.
That's amymcgrath.com. If you are
Good
outside
luck.
of Kentucky, amymcgrath.com.
All right.
And like I said, when Mitch comes on, we'll do the same thing.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Still to
Greatly
come.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Still to come.